In this video, I'm going to reassemble the front end of this SR10 completely. And here we go. So I will begin with the shock. The shock is just going to go in here. So really quick, if you remove this, just install it again, leave that little cap on, and then just slide the shock over, just like this. And then you will need the nut, which is already in there. It's a 5.5 millimeter driver. Then again, if you removed it, then you would know that. Do not use pliers, use actual drivers, else you're just going to damage your hardware. All right, that does it. Now your links, like I showed you when I was disassembling, so in the video where I disassembled this, these would just snap on. You can use pliers, clip them on. Or if you remove them with the ball stud, then you would just stick this in there and then just turn and tighten everything up. The main thing is going to be this here. So those little hats, just make sure those go from the inside out toward the center outward. And this, so I'm just sticking my thumb in here to hold them. This is going to face forward. So this will be seated this way. And this, after you pop the bearings in, I did that in the actual removal video, this has to face back. So put this forward and then this will be towards you facing up. And you would just slide this in. Somewhat of a tight fit. Here we go. All right, and that is it. I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws in. And they are the same screws, so I am not worried about which is which. These are the same size, and you just drive them in. Once it's lined up, then you just drive it in. Now really quick, if you were to replace one of these knuckles with a new one, my recommendation is to pre-thread the knuckle before you install it in here. And the only reason why is, once it's pre-thread, the screw's going to go in there easier, so you run a low risk of threading it wrong or threading it crooked, which could cause a few little problems later down the road. All right, so this one is set, good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open it this way. I'm gonna go ahead and put the spindle in. So spindle goes from outside in, and the way you can tell is this. So if you set this properly, it should look like this. Now, you could have installed the spindle before installing the rest of the items, but it doesn't really matter because it's off the car. There we go. If you need to reapply thread lock, do so now. Well, before you stick the screw in. I already did that. And then, again, you can use a wrench for that. You can use a socket, or just use the wheel. And snug is all you need. Do not over tighten. Never over tighten any components of an RC car. But here it is. So this is now complete, and we're gonna set it properly. Again, this one goes forward, this one faces up, and it's toward you. Right, so this should go out and then bend off to the side. Now I can go ahead and install the arm. One important thing about the arm, remember the shock screw goes in through the rear, which is back here. Therefore, this faces forward. So if you look at those two little spaces in here, I'm looking at this, the gap between here and the gap between here, the larger part faces forward, the smaller part faces back. All right, once we do this, remember, the pin will not go in through this side, it can only go in through the rear. So you're going to grab the pin, make sure that your pin is clean and smooth. And then once you do that, 1.5 millimeter, grab this tiny little screw, and this screw is what holds that pin in, and that's it. Do not over tighten this, it just goes in, and then once you hit the limit, that's it, stop. If you cross thread this or you destroy the threads on the arm, you're going to need a new arm. But that's the assembly of the arm. Now, say everything was taken apart. To mount the shock tower, to mount these antlers onto the shock tower, you would just insert that screw, this screw over here. Shock tower to the entire front, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you have those 4, it's going to look something like this. At this point, you can go ahead and mount the arm. So I'm going to get all of these components out of the way. And again, it goes like this. So that one goes forward, this one goes towards you. Therefore, the arm must install this way. Now, if you watch the disassembly, we left that screw in. If we removed that, then the pin could go in through here, but since we did not remove that, the pin has to go in through the front. So this is the front, left side, right side of the vehicle. So the left side's to your right of the screen. And this just goes inside. They will be sticking out just a smidge out, about 3 millimeters out. You will grab this plate. Again, do not remove those little guys. You don't need to remove those. And this will just go in here. And that little M shape, well, that goes toward the top. So away from you. Now, you're just going to grab those 2 screws. These are the 2 screws that hold it right in here. Now, the assembly is much easier, especially after you've disassembled it. Now, why am I doing the assembly? Maybe you bought a bunch of parts and you're trying to assemble it. There's a reason why. Or maybe it's because I get to talk and I just like the sound of my voice. That is always a possibility. Comment below, do you like the sound of my voice? Do you play these videos to help you sleep at night? I do. But, you know, this is all you need to reassemble everything. Just these 2 screws hold that plate on. And this is now almost ready. I'm going to go ahead and flip this again, just to show you the links. Now, here, installing the shock would make things easier, in my point of view. You can start with the links, that's fine. But I find the shock to be easier to install when the links are off. And I'm just lining up the holes, and I'm just going to set that really long screw right through there. Now, I can't tell if I hit the shock. I think there it is. Yes, so there should only be, that looks about 6 millimeters of this screw sticking out, and then you're just going to drive it in. If you are using power tools, just keep in mind the amount of torque. Electric screwdrivers work. Right, now I'm going to grab the link and you're just going to press on. You may need pliers, but it should just click on. And that's the steering. Now we're going to do the one that goes on the caster block. And that is it. I could go ahead and install the wheel now. Why not? Let's install the wheel. For the wheel, it's quite simple. Just make sure that the hex goes in that. So you have a male and a female. And here the wheel has the female part. And you're going to use a 7 millimeter driver. Make sure that you're holding the tires so that the wheel doesn't spin. And snug is all you need. Make sure that you're using serrated nuts as well. Although the front is not as crucial, but the front does come loose if you're not using some form of serration, or at least nylon nuts. So don't use regular nuts or non-nylon one. That's it. So this will just clip on. And now to install it to the front end, we're going to move this link off to the side. these two will go here, and then these four should match these four down here. And let's get the link out of the way again. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. I'll just move the servo. And this is all. So we have our two screws that go here at the top. And all of the screws that we have to install now are going to be using a 2mm driver. Now these here, these are 10mm long screws. So if you do lose one, just replace it with a 10mm. I'm going based on the look. They appear to be a centimeter in length. And I'm measuring just the thread. And because there's a kick up and I'm applying pressure down, I don't want this to bend up. This is why I'm holding the chassis on my hand so that I can install these. Once I flip it over, because the shock tower is going to come into contact with the table, then I'm not concerned about it. So at this point I can go ahead and flip this over, and then I can just worry about these four screws, which are the longer screws. These are at least 20mm in length. So these are going to go all the way through. These are going to hold the chassis, the bulkhead, and everything else. Now, this car belongs to my friend Rod. If you've watched the other videos, I've already mentioned this, but if not, you would do me a great favor if you just follow him on Instagram. You can also follow Telecomando RC on Instagram. It's just at Telecomando RC. But he has a lot of really cool reels that he will post, especially if you like crawlers. Check him out on Instagram at Rod's Reels RCs. And let him know that I referred you to him. Let's see, really cool guy. If you don't know him, you're missing out. Let's see, here we go. Let's see, it's really the angle. Because usually I would be looking over the car right on top, but because of the camera, I guess I could just move. Here we go, and one more, and then I can install the bumper. So I'll show you how to install the bumper in a bit. There we go. Now I can move on and install the bumper. Now, for the bumper, I'm gonna have to move these antlers and just face them down. Keep calling them antlers, that's what they look like. And that is it. And we have the bumper right here. And I can already tell you I made a mistake, so I'm gonna correct it. I just don't wanna do it on camera. But this is gonna go in here. Some of you already caught my mistake. Some of you probably caught my mistake before I even did this, but it's gonna be these four screws. So these little tabs are gonna go in these, right in here. And then after that, you drive these screws in. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this off camera. On the next video, I'm gonna start working on the rear. I've already talked about how to do the electronics, so I'm not gonna remove the electronics, but I will start disassembling the rear. So that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Please comment below. Please go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. And I'll see you on the teardowns for the rear end of the SR10.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!